All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krueg Show with a little 49er video as we talk a little bit about the happenings of the day in 49er land. And there have been a lot of happenings today in 49er land, and we'll get to it right now. But first, we're brought to you by our friends at Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And also, we are brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. Looking to upgrade your sleep? Now is the perfect time. Our friends at Mancini's Sleep World are kicking off their spring clearance sale starting Tuesday, March 25th. And you don't want to miss these deals. Up to 50% off select mattresses, 2 free pillows with any Tempur-Pedic mattress purchase, plus an extra 10% off when you use our exclusive code Krueg10. And here's the best part. Mancini's now offers a 365-night comfort guarantee, giving you a full year to decide if your mattress is the perfect fit for you or not. On top of that, they provide free next day delivery and best price guarantee, so you can shop with total confidence. The spring clearance sale runs from March 25th to April 28th, so don't wait. Click the link in the description below to shop now and experience better sleep with Mancini's Sleep World. Click in the description and make sure you use the code Krueg10 to get that discount. Once again, click inside that in the description and make sure you use the code Krueg10 to get your discounts. And thanks to Mancini's for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg Show. All right, let's talk a little bit about the happenings today in Ninerland. Fox NFL insider Jordan Schultz providing the details, tweeting out today that the Niner organization and Brock Purdy's agent, Kyle Strongen, are in active negotiations on a long-term deal with, interest in finalizing a contract before the 2025 season kicks off. Multiple sources are saying that Purdy's contract could land anywhere from $50 to $55 million per year. So the 49ers are not looking for another quarterback. The Niners quarterback of the future is going to be Brock Purdy. A contract extension is not imminent, but it sounds like they are working on a long-term deal and they're in active negotiations. Now, some people would say, well, what's changed? Nothing's changed. We've had reason to believe for weeks that the Niners and Purdy's agent, Kyle Strongen, were in active negotiations. So for Jordan Schultz to come out and tell us that the Niners and Purdy's agent are in active negotiations on a long-term deal, yeah, we knew that. So what's new there? The only thing that is really new are the other parts of this, that they have interest in finalizing a contract before the 2025 season kicks off. There was no indication here that what happens if they don't. What if they can't reach terms? Is Brock going to hold out? Is he not going to hold out? Is this a basic way of saying that the team and the quarterback are on the same page and that he's going to be attending all of the OTAs and minicamp and installation and the first minicamp after the draft and all the team things? Is he going to training camp? Is he going to show up in training camp, even if there's no deal done? Because, you don't kick off the season until September, but you report for training camp in July. So is he going to report in July? So there's this revelation by Jordan Schultz really begs more questions than it answers. But it does seem to answer the question of, are the Niners and Brock Purdy going to go forward together? Yes, they are. The Niners are not going to be trading Brock Purdy for draft picks and signing Aaron Rodgers. Okay, it's not going to happen. For all those of you who wish for that, go wish for something else, because that wish did not come true. All right. The Niner quarterback of the future is not going to be Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be Brock Purdy. And then the only other revelation really was that a contract extension is not considered to be imminent. So they're not on the verge of signing it. They are in active negotiations on a long-term deal, and they have mutual interest in finalizing a contract before the season kicks off. But there's no indication of how either side's going to proceed if a contract isn't finalized. What if the contract's not finalized by May? Is he going to show up for OTAs? What if the contract's not finalized by the first major team minicamp? Is he going to show up for that? Is he going to show up when they try to install the offense? Is he going to show up at the beginning of training camp? Is he going to show up for the preseason? Is he going to show up and play, or is he going to wait and hold out till the season kicks off? I think what's not said here is that I think what basically is not being said is that he's not going to hold out, that they're on the same page, that they're working to a mutually agreeable conclusion in this contract negotiation, and there won't be any holdout by Purdy, and that he's probably just going to sign some waiver, I would imagine, that's going to allow him to participate in the OTAs and give him some protection. But and maybe they have a promise from the team that, hey, we won't make you play this year on your $5.2 million option, because if I was his agent, there's no chance that Brock Purdy steps on the field for $5 million this year, not when he's risking injury and, all of his earning power going forward. Just it's not going to happen. So is this the Niners' is this Brock's agent's way of saying, hey, we're not going to hold out? Is this the Niners' way of saying, we're going to throw in some protections so that, if you do get hurt along the way? I mean, how's this exactly going to work? So we don't really have all the answers. What we do have is that the Niners quarterback going forward is Brock Purdy, and that a contract extension, even though it's not imminent, the two sides are working together towards that end, and they're trying to get it done by the beginning of the year. And it sounds like, according to multiple sources, are saying, and this is also from Jordan Schultz, Fox NFL Insider, that multiple sources say Purdy's contract could land between 50 and 55 million per year, which would be awesome. That would be, to me, that is right where it should be. Here's the bottom line on this thing. People can say, well, just because Dallas was stupid enough to pay Prescott $60 million doesn't mean the Niners have to pay Brock Purdy $60 million. Yeah, they don't have to set a new league high, a new financial precedent. But you can't pretend that, we're just going to ignore that. We're going to ignore that there's a market. No, you don't get to ignore the fact there's a market. There is precedent being set. Now, you don't have to pay him the most, but you have to be competitive in the market, or you're probably not going to get it done, right? It's probably not going to get his name on the dotted line if you're not competitive in the market. And the market is that there's a bunch of quarterbacks who make between $50 and $60 million a year. And most of those quarterbacks don't have the resume of Brock Purdy. Tua Tagovailoa doesn't. Trevor Lawrence doesn't. You name it. I mean, outside of Jalen Hurts, the $50 million crowd, Justin Herbert, basically 500 quarterback. There's a lot of guys making big coin, including Tua, making $53 million a year, that have never come close to leading their team to a Super Bowl, and Brock Purdy has. So this idea that, offer him 30, that's foolish. I wouldn't offer him anything over 40. Why? So he should sign for some really low figure because some quarterback signed for that figure. I mean, the same argument that you want to use to ignore Dak Prescott is the same argument that his agent could use to ignore the guy you want to compare him to that's making $30 million. Well, we're just going to ignore this guy who's making $30 million. Well, I don't know if that flies, but if you want to ignore the Dak Prescott over here is making 60, and we can ignore all day and every day. So obviously they've come to some kind of mutual understanding. And my guess is that the mutual understanding is the Niners won't make Brock play on the 5th-year option at 5.2. They'll negotiate in good faith towards a positive conclusion. Brock sounds like he's willing to leave a little meat on the bone. He's not looking for precedent-setting, record-setting money. He's not saying 65 or I'm not showing up. I think he's willing to play ball in a reasonable range. I think 50 to 55 million AAV is probably a reasonable range. There's probably going to be over $100 million guaranteed in this deal. So that's a big part of it as well. Don't think that it's not. The AAV or the APY is part of it, but the guarantees is the bottom line. So that's the big story of the day in Ninerland. It emanated not from Ian Rappaport nor Adam Schefter. Fox NFL insider Jordan Schultz beat them both to it. And some people would say it's a non-story and it's a non-report. But the report is that the Niners and Brock Purdy's agent are in active negotiations on a long-term deal with mutual interest in finding a contract that's palatable to both sides before the 2025 season kicks off. And multiple sources are now saying that Purdy's contract could land between 50 and 55 million AAV, which is the neighborhood that he has to live in. This idea, and I talked about this a few times, but the number's got to start with a 5. It just simply does. It has to start with a 5. It doesn't have to start with a 6, but it can't start with a 4. It has to start with a 5. That's the market, any way you cut it. So that's the way it's going to shake out. We'll see. My original guess was, 3 years, a 3-year deal, 55, 56 million a year, in that range, with 100+ million, maybe 100, 120 guaranteed, something like that. Something like that, I think, is probably where this thing is headed. But today we got a little bit more revelations, and I guess the only real news is that multiple sources are thinking it could be between 50 and 55 million per year. But once again, Mahomes' contract was 45 million a year, but he had hundreds of millions of guaranteed dollars. Josh Allen just signed for 55 million a year, but he got more guaranteed money than any quarterback in history. So you got to look at the fine print on all these things. But I think we're looking at probably a short-term deal, not a long-term deal, not a 6-year deal. I think it's going to be more like a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal. And I think it's going to pay him, as I said, I'll stay with my number, 55, 56, in that range. The range from today says 50 to 55. And it sounds like, the Niners are not going to make him play on the 5.2 option and do the whole, franchise tag game for the next 3 years. And yet the other revelation is that a contract is not imminent, and there's still a lot of talking to be done. So that is the latest on Brock Purdy. Now, there were other Niner news notes today as well, including one more from Jordan Schultz, who says that the 49ers are open to trading Brandon Aiyuk, but may view it as unlikely that anyone will trade for his contract due to his ACL injury. Now, there's one bit of data there that has been conveniently left out. What's the price? It's like, do you want to buy Brandon Aiyuk? Well, he's got an ACL. Well, he's got this. He's got that. Hey, he just signed his contract. This is that. What do you want for him? That's where the rubber meets the road here, is what's the ask? What do the Niners want in return? Now, I've had people tell me that the Niners want a day 2 pick, a second-round pick, and they'd take a third. Well, they're not getting that. They're not getting that for an injured receiver. It's going to miss half the year. That's due $22 million. That's on the books for millions and millions of dollars. It's more about what the Niners are getting if they get anybody to take Aiyuk. It's to take the contract off their hands, to take the financial commitment off of their commitment and into another team's commitment ledger. And so you're not getting even value. So this talk, all these people who claim to be smart, but then keep talking about Brandon Aiyuk, like, why would you trade him? I wouldn't trade him for anything less than a second-round pick. Yeah, of course. If he wasn't hurt and he didn't have an enormous contract and you weren't looking to get out from $110 million of guaranteed monies paid by your owner who never wanted to pay that money, most likely, yeah, then he's probably worth, in a real world, he's probably worth a second or third round pick, before the injury. Now he's ripped out the ACL, the PCL, the meniscus. He's going to miss at least half the year. There's a chance he'll be diminished. You don't know what he is. And you really don't know what he is. So you're not getting fair market value. So here's the bottom line. Jordan Schultz's report, the Niners are open to trading Brandon Aiyuk. Of course they are, because they want to get off of that financial commitment that they made with Jed's money last year. Okay. But then many view it as unlikely that anyone will trade for his contract. I agree. No, I'll say, forget unlikely. I'll say there's no chance in hell that anybody's going to trade for his contract. If the price tag is a third-round pick, if the price tag's a day 2 draft choice, yeah, nobody's going to make that trade. The question is the $64 million question, or in this case, maybe the $110 million question is, how motivated are the Niners to get out from this contract? How much less than market value are the 49ers willing to take for Brandon Aiyuk? If the Niners are willing to take, for example, from the Cleveland Browns, Greg Newsome and 2 6-round picks, who knows? The Browns may say, let's do it. Let's make a deal. If the Niners are demanding the Browns' 3rd-round pick, the Browns are going to flip them the bird and say, go fly a kite. No. We thought about it. No. But if the Niners are taking Greg Newsome, who's coming off a down year, and 2 6-round picks, of which the Browns have 4 6-round picks, that's pretty palatable. And if they've got cap room to make it happen, they've been looking for this receiver. He told them no last year. Now they're in the driver's seat. They can kind of dictate to him. We don't know how little or how much beneath market value are the Niners willing to take on Brandon Aiyuk to get off of $110 million. That's the question. We don't know. If the Niners want a 3rd-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk, that's his value before the injury. That's his value without the contract. You mix in a bloated contract and a devastating knee injury, and suddenly you're trying to get out from this commitment, and you're trying to save some money for your owner. It's not about fair value for Brandon Aiyuk. So stop even thinking fair value and just think, what's it worth to you in trade? What kind of discount are you going to give the Browns to have them take $110 million of financial commitments to Brandon Aiyuk off your plate and put it on their plate? What's it worth to you? And my guess is Greg Newsome and 2 6-round picks. So what happens if the Niners are open to moving Brandon Aiyuk? Damn right they are. They want out. They want off Brandon Aiyuk and that cash. The question is, how bad? How bad do they want off? Do they want off and his normal value is a 2nd, but they want off of the contract, so hey, we'll take a 3rd? Well, that's not going to work. Because you're not coming down enough. But if you're willing to take Greg Newsome and 2 6-round picks, something tells me you might have a deal. So, and the fact that this came out that the Niners don't think that Aiyuk's going to be moved 5 days before that unofficial deadline makes me think that they're still hoping that in those 5 days, somebody is going to come forward with an offer that makes sense. And the question is how, and the Niners will never talk about this publicly. Why would you? We'll take nothing. Well, if you'll take nothing, then we'll offer you less. We'll take very little. Well, then we're going to offer you less than that. We'll take a moderate offer. Well, we're going to offer you less than that. So I'm sure they said, we want a 3rd-round pick and a player. And teams are like, nah. And Diana Rossini's calling around the league. Hey, is anybody going to pay the Niners price for Aiyuk? No. They want a 3rd-round pick and a player. No, nobody's giving them that. And then she's like, I don't think it's going to happen. Okay. But when the clock's ticking and there's $110 million of Jed's money sitting right there, and the Niners can reclaim Jed's $110 million that he committed to Aiyuk by just moving Aiyuk to the Browns for a defensive back and a couple 6-round draft choices, who do you think's gonna budge? I think the Niners are gonna budge, and I think Aiyuk's gonna be somewhere else by April 1st. We'll see. There'll be some criticism, but I think they're in it for that, to save Jed the money and to get down the road on a player that I don't think they want. And I think they'll find a way to do it. If the offer is 2 6-round picks and Greg Newsome, there'll be a lot of people that'll be critical. They'll say, oh, you got robbed. You didn't get fair value for Brandon Aiyuk. But I think when everybody looks closely at this, they'll say, well, that's what happens when, you sign a contract that you don't want to be a part of that's worthy, and you can save $110 million. You don't get fair market value when a team saves you $110 million. All right, a couple other Niner notes. Sam Okuayinonu has signed his one-year tender today with the 49ers. That's official. Also today was both the LSU and the Ohio State Pro Days in Baton Rouge and Columbus, Ohio, respectively. And at the LSU Pro Day, left tackle Will Campbell, who a lot of people think is going to be drafted by the Niners with the 11th pick, they remeasured his arm length. At Indy, he was 32 3/8 inch arm, 77 3/8 inch wingspan. That was in Indianapolis. In Baton Rouge today, he picked up some arm length. He's 33 inches on the arm length, 77 2/8 wingspan. So that seems a little odd. But anyway, Will Campbell somehow picked up a little arm length. Will it be enough how do the Niners feel about it? I don't think the Niners are that concerned about the arm length. Why? Because they drafted Joe Staley. Joe Staley had short arms. He was a great Niner. Will Campbell's a really good offensive lineman. If he's there at 11, they're probably going to take him. That would be my guess. That they'll look to Will Campbell. I mean, they might trade back. I think they probably should trade back. But if they pick at 11, I don't think Membu's going to be there. I think Will Campbell has a chance to be there. And I think they would probably draft him and put him at left guard and maybe play him maybe put him at left guard, maybe play him at right tackle. He played left tackle for LSU. But as I said, he's got 33-inch arms as of today. A couple other notes. ESPN Bet lists the 49ers today, 2025 over-under number at 10.5 wins. So once again, for some of you out there, the sky is falling crew. They're terrible. They're awful. They've got all this dead cap. They're going to be bad. They're this. Vegas doesn't agree. Vegas says the Niners are going to win either 10 wins or 11 wins. And the last place schedule is a big part of it. I mean, it's hard to see the 49ers not winning 9 or 10 games when you look at the teams that they're playing on their schedule this year. It's not a good schedule. They're playing a last place schedule. They were a last place team. This is the benefit of being in last place. You get the last place schedule. And last but certainly not least, our friend Tony Pauline, who's a former NFL scout, said the Niners have shown draft interest in Nebraska center Ben Scott. So remember that name come draft weekend. Scott allowed only 1 sack this year on 462 pass blocking opportunities. So pretty good pass blocker, Ben Scott. I'll say this, in practice, he's going up against Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher, which might be the most devastating defensive tackle combo in all of college football. And this guy had to go up against those guys in practice every day. So he's pretty proven on that front. But Ben Scott, who allowed 1 sack and 462 pass blocking opportunities in 2024, Niners have shown draft interest in him, according to Tony Pauline. And in addition to Ben Scott, the Niners also showing draft interest in Harold Fannin Jr., the Bowling Green tight end, the MAC Player of the Year. In fact, Harold Fannin Jr. will be a top 30 visit for the 49ers. And I was looking at Steph Sanchez's list of guys that the Niners have met with. Did you know that over the last 2 drafts, 24 and 23, the Niners met with roughly 100 players in those 2 drafts? They acquired, either in the draft, after the draft, or on waivers, 23 of the players that they looked at in the 2 previous drafts that were on her list of Niners met with these, let's just say they met with roughly 100. They've met with roughly 50 prospects a year. So they've met with roughly 100 prospects over the last 2 years. Okay. And 24 of them, or 23 or 24 of them, became 49ers. So about a quarter of the players that they've met with have become 49ers. So it's actually a pretty good proving ground. I'm not saying that every guy they meet with they're going to draft, but let's just say this. They get a much higher percentage chance of drafting that player if they meet with them than if they haven't. And the Niners have met with tight end Harold Fannin Jr., who didn't have a great combine, but man, what a receiver he was at Bowling Green. This guy caught ball after ball after ball. It'll be very exciting watching 12 personnel with George Kittle and Harold Fannin Jr. on the field at the same time. All right, there you go. There's your 49er update. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to Mancini's for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krueg Show on YouTube,